Once again, good evening, dear friends. My name is Alexander Platunov, and I welcome everybody who loves theatre, who joins us today for our broadcasting from different parts of the world. Today is the 23rd of September, Friday, and this is already the fourth day of our festival, St. Petersburg Theatre Seasons Online, which we're having already for the 16th time with the support of the Culture Committee of St. Petersburg. We're meeting here on the new stage of Alexandrinsky Theatre. This year we broadcast our performances on the territory of China through Weibo and Douyin in accounts of Russian Cultural Center in Beijing. It becomes possible due to our constant partnership with Россотрудничество. In social network and in accountants, they can watch the broadcastings of our performances. Already by today, we know that more than 200,000 people watched us. Organizers of the festival is the Neva-Art and social cultural company Art Project. Are grateful to Committee of Culture for financial support, and also Radio of St. Petersburg, TV channel St. Petersburg, and for the Where to Go portal and In Contact. So people from different parts of the world join us today.
Уникальные маски и эффекты. И стильные фильтры для обработки. Еще быстрее, проще, вертикальнее. Теперь в отдельном приложении. ВК-клипы. Место встречи талантов.
Well, please, you can focus your cameras on the QR code on the screen and join our community in contact and watch together with us our performances. I also have to remind you that for our foreign viewers, the English language version you can find in the English language site. In order to watch it, you need to click the button with the English language site. So also the Russian version you can see in our group in contact. So today you watched the theatre of the Theatre Baltic House in the production of Andrei Bubin. And before we meet with the group of actors who made it, I would suggest for you to watch a little video which we shot in the zoo. People, lions, eagles and partridges, deer, geese, spiders, silent fish living in the water, and those who are not seen with eyes. This is from Chekhov. In Chaika, Ostrovsky has his particular point of view. Wolves and Sheep was the play which Ostrovsky wrote in 1875. During this period, he is at height of his fame. The thunder of his play Storm has already deep resonance. Ostrovsky becomes the chairman of the Russian Society of Playwrights and Opera Composers, which means that he has grown to be the most reputable person in the theater world. He seemed to have time to rest on laurels. During all that period of the 70s, Ostrovsky is constantly looking for new artistic forms and new stories. That is why Wolves and Sheep appeared to be an experimental because it is based on the documentary story. That was a time when highly discussed legal scandal in the Russian society of that time regarding Mitrofania, Mother Superior in the Serpukhov monastery. Mitrofania was a daughter of the famous Russian commander-in-chief, the war veteran of 1812, and her mother was a niece of the last favorite of Catherine the Great, Platon Zubov. By doing this, having taken this story for a basis of a plot, Ostrovsky described a crash of morality within the Russian aristocracy. From the censorship point of view, Ostrovsky had to depict the main female character as the landowner of some religious status. But despite this, all the audience was aware of the subject which made this story. That was a modern-day topical material. Ostrovsky realized very well that events are to change. Yes, this is the up-to-date story, but the world is changeable, things remain in the past. So the author placed his story in the slapstick genre of the Shakespeare's play with a big number of bright roles, images and positions. Not by chance, during the 19th century this play has always been going on our stages. Nearly all prominent actors of that time were busy in it. I mean, Yermolova, Fedotov, Varlamov, and many others. It was the time of directors' theatre, because directors always showed interest to the play, when we can remember performances by Vivian and Tavstanogov. Also, and even Bogomolov. Also, we know the cinematographer version of the play, made by Igor Maslenikov, with the greatest actress Alla Demidova in the main role, who played Murzavetskaya. People of my generation possibly remember the performance which appeared in the beginning of 80s in Pyotr Fomenko Theatre. And that was a great show. Cozy atmosphere. Actors are very close to the audience. They are nearly on the distance of a stretched arm, and all the nuances are built in the most subtle way. For my generation, this production of Pyotr Fomenko is the most noticeable and significant. It is an absolute masterpiece, full of subtle nuances, big number of findings, intonations, transitions, which they played, being in a very close distance from the audience. It was impossible to lie. All the remarks, assessments and reactions were very accurate, and I still remember them. Sister Skutepova, for example. Another notable production of this play became the performance made by Polish director Andrzej Bubin, who has been successfully working in Russia for a long time already. This is a show made in the Baltic House Theatre. So we have already seen the performance, and today together with us there are people who participated in creation of this. I want to introduce Marina Belyeva, who is the artistic director of the Baltic House, and the actresses who took part in the performance. So it is not by chance that we have started with the story going back to the history, because every time when we speak about classics, and we have to remember that our festival consists mostly of the classical pieces, every time we remember about relations with those actors and those directors who had already worked on this play, how does this affect, how they the past experience influences now. Well, Andrei Bubin, the director, has to be here, but he is not with us. So, will you please, Marina, can you say? So you saw the experience, the performance of Pyotr Fomenko. Whether you took in consideration the experience of other directors. Well, I will allow myself to suppose that I think that Andrei also had the experience of as a viewer, and he saw the performance of Fomenko, but nevertheless, when we spoke with him about the new work, which is the fourth already, that was his suggestion to make a production of Ostrovsky, and that was very important for him. I don't know if he spoke with the predecessors, but I think for him it was very important to put on this very play. It was his suggestion, and to speak with our audience using the language of Ostrovsky with today, with the modern time. Maybe to some extent he relied on experience of the former, but he never rested on it. It was important for him, the author itself of the play. But what about the actors when they start working on the role? Do you rely on the previous experience? Natalia Parashkina, did you see the performance of Pyotr Fomenko? Did you see the movie with Demidova? Of course, when you agreed to play Murzavetskaya, did you rely on their experience? Oh, yes, of course. Of course, I relied on their experience, of course. And did you borrow anything for yourself? What kind of a dialogue you had with the previous, with the former experience? That was interesting for me, how they did their understanding, how they depicted that story. Because I had my view on this, and Andrei had his view. It is always interesting for me to see other actors to what they saw, and I always, when preparing for the role, I always watch what other actors do. So this is the difference of approach to modern play and the classical play. When we speak about classical piece, we cannot but remember the previous actors. So this is a different, this classical piece requires different approach. Well, we, together with Andrei, were very close, we're following the speech. We relied on the speech, because my role was different. Like, I underlined the consonants. Well, I took this manner of speech from over there. So this is the color that you added. So this is a modern person who speaks a different language, and this makes the conflict. And what about you, Yura? Because you made many roles in the classical repertoire. As for me, I try to forget all the former actors. For me, the role is supposed to be a pure list, yes. It just stands on the way. The predecessors and the former actors, they really influenced me very much. And I just want to forget everything what I used to know before. Sometimes I happen to do that, sometimes not. But every time when it happens to meet the familiar play, and your director offers his suggestion, but what if you have a different approach and different understanding? What if it goes against the director's understanding of how you should play the role? Whether you happen to come across this experience, that's the question to everybody, to Nastya and Masha, that Have you ever happened to go across the... Well, as for me, I try not to have any concepts when talking with the director. Usually, when we discuss the play, I do not have my opinion. I keep silent. For several days, I'm just watching the director, watching him, listening to him, because I need to understand what does he want. And then after some time, through the director, I come up with my understanding. And then it might be a conflict with the director, but at the very beginning, I try to be absolutely empty. Nastya, what about Ostrovsky, who came to your repertoire? It might be an old author already, and sometimes there is a feeling with the audience when people hear Ostrovsky, people get boring. Well, Ostrovsky again, why Ostrovsky again? This is an old master that comes from the last century. What about young people? How do they... What are the feelings of young people meeting Ostrovsky today? I think that if it were not for my contact with the director, maybe it wouldn't be easy for me. And when getting back to your previous question, suppose if my concept doesn't go together with the concept of the director, I just very silently go through real hell. I just keep it to my mind, the understanding that I would do everything different, but I always follow the director's suggestion. Well, it never happened like that with Andrei. With Andrei, we had an opportunity to discuss, to think, to contemplate, and to my mind, the performance happened to be very interesting, though I agree, Ostrovsky is really, it's already getting annoyed, you know. The first association is the very old understanding covered with dust already, maybe not very topical today. But as far as we started to read, I understood that this is going to be really very interesting. And I really find it very interesting to play. There are so many deep niches and lagunas for me. So all this material appears to be very interesting for me, not dull. I want to remind to our viewers, I've already started to speak with our guests, and you are very welcome to with your questions. You can send to us your questions, you can leave them in contact, and every time when you ask your questions, please don't forget to mention your name, the city from where you watch us, and the most interesting question is going to be rewarded with a gift. With the logotype of our festival. So, and already now we have the question coming from the audience. Vera Shibaeva from Perm has a question. Do you agree that the modern classical on the stage, classical pieces on the stage, they are unexpected? The second question is, how does the harmony come out between the different types of art? Vera, thank you very much. Of course, your question has a very deep meaning. Well, the first question refers to the view says that when everybody is aware the text of a classical play, then the theater has to act anew, to make some abrupt, some unusual tricks. Do you think that this is really so? Well, I don't I cannot agree totally. There was a very interesting case in my situation. We also played Ostrovsky, and we played it in Alexandrinsky Theatre in Helsinki city, and in Russian language we pronounced the text which we were familiar with very well. It was the production of Tumanov. It was a classical play, classical production with interesting decisions, but there was one lady from the first row. She was following, she knew the text, she was following, pronouncing, whispering the text of all the actors. That was a very beautiful play. And that was a really surprising feeling. Even when there was an intermission, this spectator didn't want to go for intermission. As for this play, of course, we understand that the text is recognizable. We follow the text. We actually do not step away from the text. Still, it sounds anew, like a new text. And actually, I love very much to go and watch classical performances, because despite on the legacy that we carry with us, despite on the 25th King Lear or the Seagull, or when we had performances of Necrocious coming to our festival, every time you see a new performance and you learn a new story. And I think that in this case it's the same. It's new, maybe for someone the text is very well known, but for us, we believe that performance gives a new face to the play. There is always a possibility to read the play, and the way we read it, the way the director reads it, makes a new impression. And as for the second question, harmony. What about the harmony? How do you reach the harmony? We discuss it. We speak. How do we reach this effect that we move and speak? Well, Angie told us that we have to move and speak. And also, we try to direct our camera to the right position. Well, those who move, those who speak, they are not supposed to think about moving and speaking, they just have to act. Another question coming from Magnitogorsk. Whether you considered some specific people to be the prototypes of your roles. When did you show any of your acquaintances? No, I'm not going to give a name. Of course, there are prototypes. Of course, my character I built basing on my internal observations for quite a well-known Moscow lawyer who runs legal suits, and we also discussed it with the artist Sveta Tuzhikova, and we discussed it with Andrei. I just copied the famous Moscow legal issue. lawyer.
конечно, ознакомилась с игуменей Митрофанией, который прочитал в газете
the superior lady Mitrofania.
Да, которая
Ostrovsky read about her in the newspaper.
«Волки и овцы» осталось название у пьесы «Волки и овцы», потому что никто не наказан, не было
such a name remained because nobody was punished.
Волк в овечьей шкуре, в общем. И начала раскручивать этих женщин.
And I started to read about these women, and I was
кто же еще у нас
for details, and I also found a lady like her in Moscow, no, in the province. Not everybody, not all the bad people are in Moscow.
Прекрасно она набрала себе автомобилей и всего прочего. И что меня порадовало больше всего, что она какие-то важные самые моменты, я много с ней посмотрела видео, и я тоже это взяла себе там в определенный момент, и она говорила всегда самые ужасные слова, очень-очень-очень
And she used to speak, to say the ugliest words with a nice smile on her face.
Нет, нет, она игуменя.
No, she is not a deputy. She is a superior lady in the church.
Прототип.
Yes, so I had a prototype.
С первого дня
From the first day, Andrzej told me to watch the movie The Diary of Bridget Jones in order to borrow naivety and what about you? Well, this is really very interesting. No, Andrzej didn't tell me anything. With my character, he gave me a different approach. He asked me just to put away the text. You're a young girl and you know what we're talking about. Tomorrow, just sit in front of me and you just tell me the story from your life.
Немного надевая, попробуй надеть на себя вот эту Глафиру Алексеевну при этом. Есть ведь ее история в этой пьесе.
Well, there is a story of Glafira. Try to understand her story and try to put it on you,
добавляя при этом, конечно,
on yourself. Well, adding some things maybe
в большей степени я добавила туда историю своей жизни. И он мне сказал, так, вот это вот, Андрей в этом смысле с Машей точно так же работал. Так, вот 90% это все не туда, а вот эти вот 10, вот эти вот 4 предложения. Вот мы их давай, вот вытягиваем из тебя,
all those peculiarities and all those little intonations that I could take from my first rehearsals with Andrzej. And then the next question is from my side coming. Because for me it's really a miracle, of the occupation of an actor. How do you really think of yourself as Murzavetskaya when you remember your characters? Maybe it helps you to act.
Юра, ну расскажите, Юра, только в микрофон.
Well, tell us, Yura, share with us in microphone.
Я, честно говоря, думал, что вы просто
Well, to be
говорите
frank, I just thought that you are talking not about life.
Потому что, честно говоря, в
No,
жизни
not about life. In life, as for life,
побыть собой.
I want to be myself.
Сколько уж можно
Well,
играть.
because it is too much of acting.
С другой стороны,
But on the other side, maybe you are right saying that
есть такое же понятие.
there is a...
Я в роли, потом роль во мне.
We know that there is a fact that first I am in the role and then role exists in me. And sometimes you really catch yourself understanding that you start maybe the day before the performance just subconsciously some things happen inside of you, and you start feeling some energy of your character affecting you. But no, I can say that it affects my private life. So you manage to get rid of your character. I always ask this question. I'm saying that this system of personification is, well, really exists, but what about the way back, to get back from your role? Because you need to find an exit from your role, because you can act a very serious or dull or tragic role, but you need to get back to your family. Well, it is possible you finish your performance, it is possible to finish the role, but the important thing is, I keep thinking, you live through many situations and you find the reason for them. And this situation enter your life not as the character, but there is a situation and you find yourself, well, over there, the characters, they did this, whether I can do the same thing. If I am the way I am because my characters affected me, or I am what I am just because of myself. Well, usual people really live their life. Of course, they read the books, they watch movies, but they do not put on themselves the characters. But as for actors, they do that every day. They every day live different lives. And so I'm really preoccupied. I have the inner feeling of preoccupation and worries about the actors. So, you know, it's really interesting. With me, there is a moment when you keep reading the play, you try to do something, you think of the role, what you will do, how you will act, what you will wear, and then comes the moment when you understand, now this is not a character, this is me. These are my features, these are my intonations. We have one more question from Rostov-on-Don. You have mimics and gestures. Where did you learn it? Is it your natural or you learned it somewhere? Well, to be frank, this is the director, and he taught me to use my mimics. The first what he told me, imagine that you feel the perfume, and you always feel this fumes of your perfumes, and it agitates you, it's itching for you. It's always the director who teaches you yes, yeah, directors, they teach everything. Well, this is not the worst thing what they can teach the actors, and of course all people who are around, the actors, your partners, your director. If you are alone and you just get close, I don't know what I would be able to play if I would be alone. Who was your teacher in the university? Mr. Zeland. Well, Ostrovsky is always in the repertoire of your theater. Yes, there is. Is it a special attitude towards Ostrovsky? I do not ask it just for nothing, because the theme of Ostrovsky on the eve of his anniversary, I see that there are theaters where they just make production of Ostrovsky once in 10 years. But with you, well, this is a historical tradition. It has always been in the theater of Lenin Komsomol with different directors, and Ostrovsky always existed. We had Bespredaniца, Без вины виноваты, and Marriage of Belugin. I think that in this specific theater, it is related to the fact that Ostrovsky is the playwright for actors. So I want always actors to have interesting roles and interesting works. And Ostrovsky is one of those authors who give a chance to the actors to open their talent. This is not the school program. This is not the idea to pay tribute to the Dutch themes. No. I think that all theaters are going to make productions of Ostrovsky. I think that mostly the actors can open themselves, can discover themselves, can find the main role of their life, and Ostrovsky gives this chance.
Безусловно. И, насколько я понимаю, вы же шире этим занимаетесь, потому что вы проводите фестиваль Островского.
And you also have a festival of Ostrovsky. Yeah, last year we, together with you, had a festival which was called Forward to Ostrovsky. We already are going to have the second festival ahead when Russian theaters are going to come to St. Petersburg, and they are going to show their performances by Ostrovsky, and the plays are not necessarily all very famous. In 2023 we're going to have an anniversary, big festival. We're going to make a scientific conference. When collecting this festival, it is easy to work on it because we've got a very broad selection of performances that we are going to talk about. And you know, last year when we just started to work on it, I thought that it would be just easy going. And you know, no, it's not very simple, not easy, because the variety of plays is great, and this is a very interesting story that requires a lot of preparatory work. So, and this year in December we are also going to have a very interesting and complicated and hard talk on Ostrovsky. I've already mentioned that Ostrovsky is my favorite playwright, and I really believe that he's the best playwright for Russia. What about Chekhov, you may ask? I believe that Chekhov is the most important human being, but Ostrovsky is the most important playwright. And another question is coming from the audience.
Как вам кажется, что делает театр нужным на фоне массового кино и медиакультуры?
In the environment of mass information and mass culture and the movie culture and cinematography, what makes theater so important?
Вообще есть чем заняться в этой жизни, кроме театра? Как думаете? Что вы такое даете людям?
What do you give to people? What do you give to the audience, which they cannot find in the movies? Well, it's a live contact. It's a real, alive energy, because theater is the art which appears right here, right now, even today, on September 23rd, to play Ostrovsky will be different than Ostrovsky on December 25th last year. And this alive or live energy of not completed sentence, this is very important. And this doesn't exist neither in cinematography nor in the network. Real person. Because we are lacking. We stopped writing letters. We do not read paper books. That's why people come to the theater. And also it happens at that moment when the degree of your human lowliness comes to that peak, when you understand that you cannot be alone with yourself, and then you have to go to the theater, and then gives you those vitamins of life which we are lacking in real life. Well, we've got more 15 minutes. You can keep asking us questions, and you can win. You can win the gifts. So you see, all of our actors, they have the T-shirts, the gifts. So the same gifts you will receive as a gift, answering your questions, sending us your questions. When you picked up such an occupation, what was the motive for you? What was the reason why you decided to become an actor? Why did you decide to become an actor? What was your motive? Well, I studied in the musical and pedagogical college and couldn't finish it, but then finally in the last course. I am a teacher of music, play piano, and at the last course we made a performance about Ivan the Terrible, and nobody had guts to play Ivan the Terrible. And of course I agreed to play Ivan the Terrible. I was 23 years old by that time, and I remember that after that performance, which appeared to be very funny, maybe you try to go to the theater university, and then I entered the theater university, and I graduated from it. So how did you come to the theater? When I was 14 years old, to Chelyabinsk, my home city, came a director from Czechoslovakia, and she was making the festival. She was making a movie. Everybody knew that the casting was going to happen to the Czechoslovakian director. And the casting lasted for the whole day. She needed to make a movie, documentary movie, and I came by 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was already 100. I didn't even know where I go. There was an announcement that I had to prepare some explanation about myself and some poem, something. I learned one poem within one evening, Robert Рождественский, I will get drowned in your eyes, and I thought that I will tell something about myself. I entered the room, there were many people as today, there was a camera and the director, and then I learned that there was only one female role. All the other roles were for men, and actually she didn't need to cast women. And then finally I got that role. Her deputy called me, and she said that so out of the long cast of actors, they actually picked up me. But still, even then, after that, after, mounting all that, they also said that, well, you are talented, and what about Natasha Parashkina? It was very simple
детском садике
when I
играли
was in the
сказку дети для нас,
kindergarten,
и Машенька, главная исполнительница, заболела, и у меня был срочный ввод.
when I was 4 years old in
Да,
the
там не было
kindergarten,
практически
I
слов,
played a
нужно было
role
зайчику
without
лисички, мишки раздать, шапочку, варежки и
words,
носочки что-то там
and that
подходили, и
was
я
very
сидела,
easy.
просто
I
раздавала.
was just
Главную
giving
роль сыграла,
things,
срочный
so
ввод
that
4
was
года.
the
Ну, все.
main role.
Понятно. Нас подгоняют зрители с вопросами, поэтому
We-
следующий вопрос,
we-
пожалуйста.
Вопрос
Have more
Александра
questions?
Соснина. Почему Вукол
Why?
Наумович цвет носков все время меняет?
Why
О,
Vukol Naumovich always changed
хороший вопрос.
socks?
Кстати,
Ну,
смотри,
помимо-
какие у нас внимательные зрители.
Ну, помимо того, что там носки
Well,
меняются, там
besides
и
that,
бабочки
they
меняются.
change
Вот.
socks. Also, that he
Но
changes
почему-то
the
показалось, что это
decoration.
тоже
That
одна из
he
таких
also changes
характерных,
his
может
tie,
быть, особенностей и
the butterfly on his throat.
фишечек
Well,
вот
this is
таких
one of
вот,
the features,
позеров, которые
one of the
очень, так
features
сказать, любят
of
и
people
за
who
собой,
like the
следить,
pose,
и,
who
выглядеть
like
внешне,
to,
как бы сказать,
who
лоск,
take
блеск,
care
и,
about their
соответственно, всегда нужно к
looks,
себе привлекать
their
внимание, а чем тут не
appearance,
цветными носками
and
привлечь внимание.
they want to attract people's attention. So colored socks, they
Здесь, ну, в
always
первом акте-
attract
в
attention.
первом
In
акте
the first
синенькие,
act,
дальше
they were
идут,
blue,
нет, дальше
then
идут
they
беленькие, потом
white,
идут желтенькие, а
then
потом уже
yellow,
красненькие,
and then
конечно.
red.
И там бабочки каждый раз.
And also
Но я должен зрителей
butterflies
наших
also
похвалить,
are
потому что вы
different
обратили
every
внимание
time.
на ту вещь, которая оказалась
So we
настолько
praise our
важной, как мы
spectators
сейчас,
because they paid
выясняется,
attention to the
да?
very important
Вот у
detail.
меня, опять же, и еще один вопрос тоже к
And one more
актерам.
question to the actors.
Раньше
It
артисты
used to be
19 века себя со
with
стороны
actors of the 19th
видеть не
century
имели
could not
возможности.
watch themselves
Сегодня
from
при
the
нынешней
side.
технике
Today,
съемки
having
и,
the,
собственно,
all
это наш
this
фестиваль
technical
построен, да,
support
потому что в онлайн
of
проходит это,
recording
записи спектаклей.
and online
Актер имеет
techniques,
возможность
the
себя
actor has an
увидеть
opportunity
со
to
стороны,
watch
да?
himself
Вот вы
from the
смотрите
side.
спектакли
Do
с
you
собой,
watch
и
the
как это на вас
performances
влияет?
with your participation?
Юра.
Нет, не смотрю.
No, I
принципиально.
don't.
Принципиально.
Так, понял. Наташа, а вы?
No,
Нет,
I
не
don't
смотрю.
watch
Что
myself
прям
in
вот
the
мне
video.
интересно на себя там посмотреть и
Aren't you
проверить,
interested
где
to
чего,
see
может быть, не
yourself
так. Или это
in the
мешает
video?
нам? Или это мешает действительно потом?
Or it's
Ну,
on
наверное,
your
не
way
знаю,
for
я
your future?
стесняюсь.
Well, I don't know, I feel shy.
А Наталья Парашкина, обладательница приза за лучшую женскую роль.
Well,
как
Natalia
раз вот за
Parashkina,
эту
who
самую
won the
Мурзавецкую в этом
best
спектакле,
prize for
стесняется.
Murzavetskaya, she feels
Интересный
shy.
подход.
That's a
То
very
есть вы не
interesting
смотрите
approach.
Нет? О, как интересно.
No.
Не видят. А
Я
я...
просто очень много претензий к себе сразу.
No, well, I
Ну, я понимаю, что,
immediately
наверное, может быть, и мешает,
see
потому что я-то
many
наоборот думал, что человек,
drawbacks.
о, мне надо себя
It's on
посмотреть,
the
чтобы посмотреть,
way,
как это там,
really.
что
It doesn't
переделать,
help
как что-то
watching
сделать.
Нет,
yourself.
наверное, вы правы. Так должно быть.
Maybe you are
Вот
right.
по уму
This is
вот
how
так
it
и
should
должно
be.
быть. То есть мы должны посмотреть,
This is how it should be. We have to
увидеть
watch
собственные
ourselves,
ошибки,
watch
но
our
именно
mistakes, watch our
это
drawbacks,
всё-таки
watch
тяжело
our.
очень сделать,
But you
тяжело
know,
себя
it's
заставить.
very difficult
Поэтому
to
проще
make
мне вот
yourself
лично сказать, нет, я
watching.
принципиально не смотрю. Хотя на самом деле,
It's easier
вот
to
так вот
deny
если,
watching,
честно
to be in
признаться,
refusal.
надо это сделать, надо
We
посмотреть,
refuse to
потому
watch,
что
we do not
наверняка
want.
увидишь
But
кучу своих
maybe
косяков,
you have
которые
to do
можно
that,
поправить,
because definitely, for
которые,
sure, you will see many,
можно
many
исправить.
drawbacks
Но,
and
с другой стороны, ты всегда можешь сказать,
mistakes
«Да,
which
зато
you
это
can
было вот,
correct.
ну, когда
But
снимали
you
спектакль,
can
а
say,
фильм-то всё сделал по-другому, всё
you can
сделал
say, well,
нормально».
these mistakes were
Поэтому
made during the recording, but today I played
вы
it in a
всегда
different way.
смотрите.
Вы всегда можете посмотреть спектакли
Well, I
нашего
think that
фестиваля,
you have.
потому что
Well,
ваш
you
театр
can
в нем
always
участвует
watch
уже
the
не первый
performances
раз,
of our
поэтому
festival,
возможность на
because
себя
this is not
посмотреть
for
у
the
вас,
first time when
безусловно, имеется, и вопрос от зрителей.
your theater takes part in our festival and you have always
Как
the
долго
chance to
по
watch
времени
yourself.
создавался
How
спектакль?
long have you
Вопрос
been
от Любови
working
Шаталовой.
over the performance, over this
Ответим
production?
любовью.
На самом деле, недолго. Мы начали
Not-
репетировать в августе.
Not long. We started
Премьера была в
to
декабре.
rehearse in
Но,
August and we had a
дело
premiere
в
in
том, что это был
December. But
послепандемийный
the
год.
matter is that that was a year after the
Только-только,
pandemics. And
закончилась основная
right
часть
after the
пандемии, и
major
всё
part
равно
of
репетиции,
pandemics
они
came
были
to an
очень
end,
рваными,
and we,
по той простой
our
причине, что
rehearsals were
кто-то
not
начинал
constant,
заболевать,
were very
репетиции
short, because
останавливались.
it was always that someone
Потом, да,
went
режиссер
ill,
заболел
and then the
почти там
director
недалеко от
got
выпуска.
sick,
В общем, это было такой очень
became ill.
рваный,
So
так
that was
скажем,
really very
репетиционный
difficult. The
период
work was
выпуска.
going on right after the
Где там
pandemics.
можно
Well,
говорить о
we can
2,5-3 месяцах работы.
We can speak about 2 months of work, because Andrei, our director, was seriously sick, and we had our actors were sick. We had about 3 months of work.
И такой вопрос, там у зрительницы,
The next question is that one of the spectators already mentioned it.
Как бы частично. Когда вы встречаетесь с
When you meet
персонажем классической
your
пьесы, вы
character
встречаетесь с
of the
людьми
classical
другой
play,
эпохи
you meet
обязательно,
people
да?
of
Потому что
different
классика, как правило,
epoch.
всё-таки за пределами, ну уж во всяком случае 21 века написано. А вы как
Of different
изучаете,
time.
ну, там,
How
быт,
do you study the
манеры,
manners,
особенности
the
поведения
routine,
того или
the
иного времени, с помощью
peculiarities
чего это
of
происходит? Вам же
some
нужно как бы,
peculiarities
Ну,
of the
имейте в виду,
time of the last century or other previous
касаясь конкретно
centuries?
данного случая
How do you do
спектакля
that?
«Волки и овцы»,
Well,
Анджей
here
сразу сказал,
Andrei
никаких
said
историй про
no
19 век
stories
не будет.
about
Это
19th century we're
чисто
not going to have.
современные
This is a
истории.
very
Поэтому
modern story.
все,
Because
то,
that's
что вы
why
говорите,
all
вот
what
подобные,
you
так сказать,
say,
исторические
the
экскурсии были
some
отброшены в сторону.
historical
Безусловно, необходимо было
aspects
все-таки понять,
were left
кто
behind.
это
Of
приказчик,
course,
всё-таки
we
чем
need
они
to
там
understand
занимаются,
some
чтобы таким
words
образом
still
как-то
remain.
переложить это на
The
сегодняшний день. Потому что
words
история, Анджей сказал,
coming
современная.
from
Соответственно,
the
давайте
former,
будем говорить про
from the
современных людей,
past.
про нашу
But we
жизнь,
agreed that this
про,
is a modern story, and we talk
знаете,
about the
про тот
present
лес
life,
наш, который
about our
продает,
forest
покупает Беркутов.
that
то есть время
Berkutov
не
buys and
манера, а вот
sells.
как Наташа говорила, текст, да, вот
So
текст вот
the important
проинтонированный,
thing
и в
is
этом спектакле он
the text.
действительно очень слышим, я бы сказал,
Intonated
вы
text.
очень крупно его подаете в этом спектакле, все это слышится. А вот
And we hear
действительно,
that.
когда
Well,
есть встреча
really,
с каким-то историческим
every time
персонажем,
when
артисты
you
вообще книги
meet with a
читают или всё на
historical
режиссера? Вы, что
character,
скажете? Как
do
вы
actors
относитесь?
read the books,
как
or
же?
everything depends on director? Of
Конечно,
course, we
читается.
do. Of
То есть
course.
по эпохе, про этого человека,
About the
например,
epoch,
персонажа.
about the
Тем более,
time,
если это
about the
совсем
character, of
исторический
course.
персонаж, да,
If
который,
this is
скажем,
a
предположим, был
historical
300 лет
character,
назад,
suppose,
да,
who
так
used
это
to be
тем более
300
требует
years ago,
набора
of
материала,
course, we have to
разного
collect,
материала,
we have to collect
разных
different
исторических,
materials, different
так
historical
скажем, концепций, да.
concepts
С тем,
to
чтобы
know
у тебя лично
for
сложилось какое-то
you
впечатление,
personally could make
лично
your own
какая-то
impression
картинка, как Маша
and a
тоже
picture
говорит,
of
встреча с этим персонажем.
for you could
Я вам больше
encounter
скажу,
this
наши
character.
артисты еще в музеи ходят.
And our actors also
когда
go to the
спектакли делаем,
museums,
когда мы делали
and when we
«Одиссею», у
work
нас
on
было
the
несколько экскурсий в Эрмитаж.
plays, we
А когда мы
went to the
ставили
Hermitage,
«Смерть Тарелкина»,
and
у нас
when
было
we
несколько
played the
лекций,
death of
посвященных
Тарелкин,
Сухову Кобылину.
we had a
Поэтому
number of lectures
миф о
dedicated
том,
to
что актеры
Sukhavu
не читают
Kabylina.
ничего,
So
кроме ролей, это неправда.
this is
Но
not
это
truth
хорошее
that actors
дополнение.
read
Вот
only
так,
their
ведется
roles.
работа над
This is not
спектаклем.
truth.
И наше время заканчивается, к
So
сожалению.
that's the way we work
Вопрос
on the
лучший
performance.
вам предстоит
So we
выбрать
are running
ближайшие
out of
15
our
секунд,
time,
так
and now
сказать.
you
Какой лучший
have
вопрос?
to pick up the
Какой?
best question.
Ну вот, да,
About the
я оценил,
socks.
кстати. Но вопрос про носки заданный очень внимательным нашим зрителям.
So the
оказался
gift
самым интересным.
goes
Я всячески
to the
поддерживаю, мнение
most
нашего жюри.
attentive
И поздравляю зрителя, которого
and
зовут как?
accurate
Скажет голос свыше.
spectator about the socks. This spectator
Александр?
gets the
Александр Соснин
gift.
выигрывает
Alexander
этот приз. Мы вас
Sosnin
поздравляем.
wins the
Входите в
prize.
театр,
We congratulate
посмотрите
you.
на то,
Go,
как одеты
please
герои.
come to
И,
our
ну, и на
performances.
остальные детали и
Be
прочее. Спасибо за то, что вы нас
attentive viewer.
смотрите.
Да, что артист тоже не зря, вот носочки придумала, не зря люди видят это все, зрители.
Вот.
While the
Да.
actor invented the detail,
Да,
and it
это
was not in
замечательный,
vain, so the
вывод, Наташа,
spectators,
спасибо.
they've
Несмотря на
noticed
то, что вы мимо
all
микрофона
the-
вы произнесли, как обычно я делаю, но это хорошо. И я, конечно же, подарки зрителям розданы, и я тоже должен
Well, we've already
от
distributed
нашего
the gifts
имени, от имени
to
нашего
our
фестиваля
spectators. On
преподнести
behalf
диплом
of our festival,
участника
I want
за
to
участие
give
в
a
нашем
diploma
фестивале с пожеланиями
of a
огромных
participant of the
успехов
festival,
театру
and we
«Балтийский
wish
дом»,
you success and
так
luck
интересно
to
работает
the
с
Theatre Baltic
разнообразной
House,
режиссурой
who
и
works
ставит
so
совершенно
so
разнообразных
in such an interesting manner with different authors and with the classical author. And I remind you that tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the evening you will be able to see the performance Uncle Vanya, made by comedian Shelter Theatre, and at 10 o'clock in the evening, as usual, we invite you to join our discussion with the team of the theatre. I'm very grateful to our guests. See you